They make billions of dollars smuggling drugs and illicit goods across the border into the United States, and many of their leaders are wanted across the border. But who are the powerful Mexican drug cartels?
Authorities believe the kidnappers belong to the state's dominant Jalisco New Generation Drug Cartel. Details surrounding the kidnapping are still being investigated.
In recent months, the situation involving the CJNG, or the Jalisco New Generation Cartel, is continuing to get more and more extreme. This violent criminal group, headed by Mencho, has released several incredibly graphic videos showing them violently assassinating their opponents. They are certainly trying to send a very powerful and very clear message that they will tolerate nothing when it comes to seeking power and control, and will take down anyone who dares to stand in their way. Most of these videos are so utterly graphic and explicit that they are quickly scrubbed from many of the most accessible internet sites, but can still be found among the dark web. It is common for the CJNG to release these sorts of videos in order to instill fear among their enemies. These videos are a prime example of CJNG's violent behavior as they continue their fight to dominate the drug trade, not just in Mexico, but beyond. Among the most recent of these horror-filled videos is one from Guerrero. It shows masked men callously kicking and burning the dead bodies of their enemies. While standing on a wooded mountainside, these men could be seen whooping and cheering and seemed to be celebrating while committing these horrible acts. The bodies, which already appeared to have gone through a lot of abuse, were kicked at by the masked men. Others were dragged around, fired at repeatedly, or stomped on, while more masked men watched and laughed like they were at some sort of twisted party. There were at least 15 bodies in total, and they appeared to be former military members. This video is just one of many like it. But it is not just other rival gang members that the CJNG has targeted with their wrath. Mexican officials are currently investigating a video released by the cartel in June of 2023 in which a woman is victimized. The video, which was first shared on social media, reportedly appears to show masked military men armed with deadly weapons forcing a female bartender to the ground while she begs for her life. The woman is forced to lie flat on the ground while a masked man uses his foot on her back to hold her down. Yes, 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 please don't, please, she says. This is so, the owner of the escort business is the CJNG, the masked man says to the camera. The masked man gives further instructions, saying that those within the community who want protection from the CJNG will have to pay for it, but he doesn't specify how much. He also says that those who have paid for their protection will be given bracelets to wear to help differentiate them from others who have not. Authorities are not sure of the location where the video was filmed or what happened to the woman when the film ended, but the message they are trying to send through the video is clear. Those who disobey the orders of the CJNG may end up paying with their lives. So how did one of the most formidable criminal organizations become what it is today? Let's take a look back.
In Tijuana alone, there are 3 cartels fighting for power: the Sinaloa Cartel, Jalisco New Generation, and the Tijuana Cartel. Although there are many other cartels in Mexico, these 3, plus another known as the Gulf Cartel, are the most powerful in the country.
The Tijuana Cartel is the oldest among these 3.
Jalisco New Generation come from Jalisco State, and they deal mainly in cocaine. Now, the Tijuana Cartel traditionally ran the drugs business in the city, but the Sinaloa Cartel has moved into their turf and taken away some of the business. It means now that the city is at the center of a major and bloody turf war, making it one of the most dangerous cities in the country.
The cartel Jalisco New Generation emerged around 2010, but its roots can be traced all the way back to the Mencho cartel, which was a prominent figure in the drug trafficking game in the early 2000s. The faction that broke away from the Mencho cartel to form what is now the CJNG was led by Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, who is much better known as El Mencho. When this group was still young, it formed alliances with other criminal organizations, including Los Zetas. This alliance helped CJNG expand its influence and secure drug trafficking routes. Since then, it has expanded very quickly. It operates well beyond Jalisco and takes advantage of what has been left behind by the weakening of other cartels, such as the Sinaloa Cartel and Los Zetas. Throughout the years, the CJNG has strategically moved into key territories across Mexico, including Michoacán, Veracruz, Colima, and Guerrero. Extreme violence and the graphic execution videos that have been making headlines recently have continued to be the main ways that the CJNG has managed to instill discipline and hold on to control of its members. So you might be wondering, what is it about El Mencho that has caused so many to join the CJNG, essentially putting their lives on the line to serve under him? Is he a cruel and heartless dictator or a fair leader? It depends on who you ask. El Mencho was not always the formidable drug kingpin that we know him to be today. He comes from very humble beginnings. He was born on July 17, 1966, in Aguililla, Michoacán, an area known for its production of illegal drugs. He grew up in a poor family and worked as a farmer throughout his younger years. But despite the poverty he faced from a young age, El Mencho dreamed of something greater and was determined to do whatever it took to make it happen. So he migrated to the United States, where he began to take part in petty crime. He was eventually arrested due to drug charges and sent back to Mexico. But his life of crime didn't end there. Back in Mexico, El Mencho now had lots of valuable experience that he could use in his favor, including experience with drug production and trafficking, as well as other criminal activities. It was this experience, as well as the many connections that he built over time, that he used to eventually form the CJNG. Many of El Mencho's supporters have come from economic backgrounds similar to his own, such as poor farmers searching for a better life. Many believe that following El Mencho and joining in on the drug trade, even with all the danger and corruption involved with this kind of life, is still better than living in poverty and constantly worrying about how to make ends meet. That promise of a better life is likely one of the many factors that has played a role in El Mencho becoming who he is today and winning over the allegiance of so many.
Yo sé quién es mi patrón, señor Don Mencho, una persona muy honorable y las personas que lo conocen saben la calidad de persona que es. Si yo no pensara de la forma que yo pienso, yo no perteneciera o no fuera parte de este cartel.
One of the most recent developments in connection to this cartel is the continued emergence and growth of a cell of the CJNG known as the Caibiles. The Caibiles are a special operations force within the Guatemalan military. They are known for their intensive skilled training and combat experience. This group is considered to be one of the most specialized military units of all of Guatemala. Members of the Caibiles are distinguished by their maroon berets and patches, which are printed with a blazing sword. They have a reputation for being fierce and disciplined soldiers. The Caibiles are expected to go through intense training in jungle warfare, counterinsurgency, and special operations. The training program, which lasts around 8 weeks, is physically and mentally demanding and includes unconventional survival tactics. This includes knowing how to perform field surgery on yourself, killing and eating live animals, and drinking from artillery shells. But that's not all. This sort of military group requires its soldiers to act completely on command and not on emotion. This involves requiring them to do the unthinkable by participating in heartless, cruel, and inhumane training exercises. Just one example is caring for, bonding with, and training a puppy only to later be forced to brutally kill it. Another exercise involves being forced to drink a mixture of many different types of liquor, along with gunpowder and other substances, while still remaining in control enough to cut themselves with their own bayonet as part of completing a ritual ceremony. It's truly something that is not for the weak. Understandably, other military groups have been attracted to the heartless, fearless nature of this group, and some have recruited these soldiers for their own armies. Frankly, this is not a group of people to mess around with, as they take their job incredibly seriously. Right now, one of the primary focuses of the Caibiles is their battle with a rival group of the CJNG known as La Baradora. The Caibiles have been battling La Baradora on behalf of the CJNG for power throughout the Mexican state of Tabasco and beyond in recent years. But what exactly is La Baradora? La Baradora is a criminal organization that operates primarily in the Mexican states of Guerrero and the state of Mexico, as well as in Tabasco. In these regions, they compete with other criminal organizations for complete and total control of drug trafficking routes and territories. It is believed to have originated around 2010 as an offshoot of the Beltran Leyva organization. It was formed following the fragmentation of the Beltran Leyva cartel due to infighting and the capture or killing of its leaders. This group is famous for engaging in many different kinds of criminal activities, including drug trafficking, extortion, kidnapping, and other forms of organized crime. They are also especially well known for the trafficking of illegal drugs into the United States. It comes as no surprise that the CJNG would enlist the help of the Caibiles, who are among the most ruthless of military organizations, as they continue their quest for total domination. The CJNG is of course Mexican-based and has many members that are of Mexican descent. However, it is also composed of people from a variety of different backgrounds, including non-Mexican Latinos, Colombians, and Guatemalans. In fact, some of the most prominent CJNG leaders are not originally from Mexico. Carlos Andres Rivera Valera, for example, was born in Colombia in 1986. Better known as La Firma, or El Laf, he is among the most powerful and highest-ranking leaders of the CJNG. He operates primarily in Puerto Vallarta. El Mencho has placed a major level of responsibility on his shoulders. This responsibility includes trying to diffuse internal rifts within the cartel and to punish those who make moves without permission of higher-up leaders. The way that La Firma settles these disagreements is often through the use of violence. Notably, La Firma is believed to be behind the execution of those responsible for the kidnapping of then 29-year-old Jesus Alfredo Guzman in 2016. If the name Guzman sounds familiar to you, it is because Jesus is the son of the infamous Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo. El Chapo is of course the notorious drug lord and former leader of the Sinaloa cartel, the CJNG's greatest rival. El Chapo Guzman is currently incarcerated in a maximum security prison. When news of Jesus' kidnapping spread throughout the world in the summer of 2016, it was a clear sign that conflict between the Sinaloa cartel and CJNG had reached an unprecedented level.
Officials confirm the son of Mexican drug lord El Chapo was among a group of people kidnapped from a resort in Puerto Vallarta. 29-year-old Jesus Alfredo Guzman, pictured here on the right, was reportedly dining at an upscale restaurant with 5 other people when the group was kidnapped.
For the Sinaloa cartel, there was no question about who was responsible.
Authorities believe the kidnappers belong to the state's dominant Jalisco New Generation Drug Cartel.
Despite the fact that the CJNG was the group believed to be behind the kidnappings, it was actually a rogue cell of this organization that operated without the permission of El Mencho.
The surveillance images show the attack was brazen. Monday morning around 1 a.m. in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, screenshots show Jesus Alfredo Guzman sitting at a table with friends. Moments later, he's abducted by men armed with long guns.
The bold nature of the kidnappings was shocking.
Alfredo, who was believed to be part of the new leadership of his father's Sinaloa cartel, was said to not be taking his role seriously. The source says Alfredo, quote, had been partying a lot and was caught off guard, allowing for the abduction to happen.
It appeared that this strategic move was intended to be a wake-up call for Jesus that the CJNG were not messing around.
The screenshots are only a glimpse into the kidnapping of Alfredo and 5 other men. They were released on the popular cartel website, El Blog del Narco. How the website obtained the photos is unclear, but on Wednesday, the Jalisco State Attorney General said they were authentic.
Reports at the time said that 9 women were present at the time of the kidnappings and were allowed to leave the restaurant. To operate a targeted attack of such magnitude like this one without permission from the head boss himself was considered an act of great disrespect. It was almost as if the members of this rogue group had acted in direct defiance of the CJNG leader. Jesus' kidnapping was an especially serious issue because El Mencho's own son, Ruben Oseguera Gonzalez, had already been kidnapped and was being held on El Chapo's orders at the time. Before El Chapo was arrested and extradited to the United States, El Chapo had given several final commands. One of them was to capture El Mencho's son and to hold him captive until his own son was released, at whatever point in time that turned out to be. If this order was not followed, it was pretty much a guarantee that El Mencho's son Ruben would be murdered. Now that this cell of CJNG had gone rogue and acted without permission, Ruben's life was in great danger. El Mencho moved quickly, pulling strings to undo the damage of the rogue group and arrange for the release of Jesus Guzman in exchange for the release of Ruben Gonzalez. After 1 week in captivity, Jesus was released and allowed to return to Sinaloa, Mexico. This was after a multitude of different people, including law enforcement, members of the military, and top prosecutors, had relentlessly searched for him. As for those that went rogue and were responsible for the kidnapping, they had to face the wrath of La Firma and his crew. They were tracked down and swiftly executed. Among other current conflicts affecting the CJNG is the fight against the group known as El Migadas. It is a criminal organization that operates primarily in the Mexican state of Michoacán and is known for its involvement in drug trafficking, as well as other forms of organized crime, such as extortion and robbery. It is led by Miguel Ángel Gallegos Godoy, who is a veteran trafficker and one of the most powerful and feared capos in Michoacán. Gallegos Godoy has a long history in the drug trade and is known for his influence in the region. El Migadas has historically been associated with CJNG, as both groups operate in Michoacán and have had conflicts with each other. While they may have engaged in partnerships or alliances in the past, their relationship has changed over time. El Migadas and CJNG have been in conflict over control of territories and drug trafficking routes in Michoacán. CJNG has been actively seeking to expand its influence in the state, leading to clashes with El Migadas. The conflict between El Migadas and CJNG has resulted in violence and power struggles in the region. Both groups use extreme tactics, including targeted assassinations and attacks on rivals, to assert control and dominance. Now that former drug kingpin El Chapo is safely behind bars where he is serving a life sentence in Colorado, El Mencho has become public enemy number one. Taking him down is such a crucial part of the DEA's war against the ongoing drug crisis that millions have been offered in exchange for information that will help lead to his capture.
Tonight, the DEA is offering $10 million for information leading to the arrest of the Mexican drug kingpin known as El Mencho. He's blamed for a flood of narcotics into the U.S.
When many people living in the United States hear about the ongoing cartel violence and criminal activity, they might not realize how deeply these issues affect them too, directly impacting their own communities and those they care about as well. This is because El Mencho is believed to be responsible for at least a third of the illicit drugs coming into the United States. These are drugs that cause addiction, overdose, and death. They are taking people's lives and destroying families.
7:15 in the morning. Yeah. And there's people in the alley back there.
The DEA's Brian McKnight showed us what's going on in broad daylight.
There's literally a line. Now everyone's coming back out.
See, the guy's putting on his right hand, he's putting in his pocket.
What percentage of drugs in Chicago do you think come from Mexico?
A significant amount, probably about 90%.
Despite the many vast resources that have been used in an attempt to locate and take down El Mencho, he has somehow been able to avoid capture throughout all these years. But while the drug kingpin may be able to evade law enforcement, some believe he may be battling other personal issues behind closed doors. New rumors are often swirling that El Mencho is in very poor health. Some rumors even circulated that suggested that he had passed away from sickness already. Nevertheless, latest updates have claimed that the cartel boss, who would now be 57 years old, is still continuing to lead operations. How much longer will he be able to continue his reign? Only time will tell. Another group that many tend to forget that is heavily affected by the ongoing cartel violence is the smaller Mexican villages and communities that have essentially become like pawns in a much larger game. The stakes have come so high that those within those communities have had no choice but to go to great lengths in order to try to protect themselves.
Deadly cartel violence has escalated across Mexico, and some villages have armed children in the fight for peace and stability. Jarring images show the kids during training, some of the younger ones holding fake guns, but others are using real weapons.
Seeing a child holding a deadly weapon just feels plain wrong. But for some of the youth within these communities, it has become a way of life.
Vigilante groups have become more common in indigenous communities across Mexico. Vice News explores this story in a new report where local militia officials say that they've been left with no choice.
Training the children to be able to defend themselves is considered crucial to ensure they can protect themselves if they need to in the future, and nobody else is around to do it for them.
Preparamos los niños aquí en Ayahualtempo, porque pues cada 3 días, 4 días están amenazando al grupo delictivo de entrar en la comunidad de Ayahualtempo.
¡Embrasar armas! ¡Ya!
Sí, o sea, la gente que critica pues es lo que no le ha pasado. Por ejemplo, pues a lo mejor no ha perdido algún familiar. En caso de los niños, lo estamos preparando para que ellos, pues al rato, como decía, pierden su padre, su madre, pues ellos pueden defenderse.
It may be hard to imagine a child as young as those in these clips ever being in a situation where they may have to know how to use a firearm to kill another person. However, when the alternative could be them being killed themselves, the reason why training camps like these exist in the smaller Mexican communities becomes clear.
Porque pues si ellos no lo hacen, ¿quién lo va a defender? El gobierno pues está claro que no nos va a defender.
Unfortunately, it does not appear that an end to the violent situation going on in Mexico will be coming to an end in the near future. In the meantime, the tragic loss of innocent lives is sure to continue. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more.